It's an interesting set of events that took us to Belize. We originally started going there about 11 years ago on our 15-year anniversary. And at that point, we really fell in love with the country and decided that this would definitely be somewhere we'd like to spend some more time. You've got diving, snorkeling, you've got the beaches, sailing, boating, you've got cave tubing. It's one of those exotic locations in the Caribbean where you're surrounded by beach, water, very warm weather, and a very hospitable people that are great hosts as you visit their country. After visiting Belize several times, we decided that it was convenient enough, located very close to the US, easy to get to, that it would be one of those places that we'd like to explore, making an investment and building a house. And with that came the decision, what do we do? Do we buy something that's there? Do we build? Is that easy to do? What would give us the best bang for our buck and the biggest return on the dollar? And what would be something that would be fun for our family to do? Growing up, my brother, my parents and I, we always tended to build our own houses, and we very much like to work with our hands, very much like construction. So we decided that for us, the best course of action would be to go ahead and build. Phase one. We kind of divided it up into phases. And phase one was, let's go ahead and find a piece of property. Let's go ahead and secure that piece of property, put a fence around it, really demark it from the rest of the community so that it was secure, so that everybody was aware. We got it surveyed, we planted stakes in the ground, and then we immediately worked to get a contractor so that we could start the fence and really start to secure the property. We chose Key Cocker, which is also a very touristy island, but at a much smaller scale. There's roughly 1,500 people that live on Key Cocker, so there's not a lot of natives and families and housing that live on the island. So you get a fair mix of regular residents and inhabitants of the island and a fair amount of tourists. It seemed to fit what we were looking for. Of course, the first step in the journey was to actually purchase a piece of land. But as you do it internationally, that opens up a whole other can of worms and process that we were not intimately familiar with. But at the end, it very much resonated with what has to happen in the US. Just imagine 10 times longer. So I got with our realtor. She was very instrumental in guiding us through the process. She introduced me to a builder who was local on the island. We went through, saw a bunch of his work. He toured me through the island of construction projects that he was done. And that really put me at ease that he would be a good contractor. After that, we had to figure out what we wanted to build. And so we did a little bit of research online and tried to figure out what would blend in with Belizean style, a little bit of American style, but really give us a solid house that would weather well. So we picked out a design, and then we started to investigate what does it take to build in Belize. So I went back to my realtor and I went to my builder and I said, hey, we've got a design of what we want for the house. Now I need to get an architect. So we made contact with the architect. I sent him the designs that we had, and he said, yep, absolutely. I can do the designs, I can do your drawings. My firm will pass it over to an engineering firm. You'll get the engineering stamp on it, you'll get all the approvals, and we'll take care of all the permitting process. Phase two. During phase two, as we really started to get into construction of the wall surrounding the property, as well as construction of the house, because they did go kind of hand in hand, as you can imagine. As we're having materials delivered for one, it only made sense to have materials delivered for the other. And as we had big equipment out on the site, whether it was putting in pilings or backhoes digging footings, it just made sense to dig both house and securing fence. Keep in mind it is an island, so everything on the island has to be imported to the island. We found that we were able to source most things locally. It really came down to some of the finer finer finishing things that we had to export. So I really kind of started to become my own shipping company, because as we started construction, I would send materials down, I would send tools down, I would send supplies for the workers. It was very interesting to watch them build, because here in the US, we've got very deep safety protocols. We've got organizations like OSHA that make sure everything's safe and secure and workers are not at harm. Very different in a third world country. It was interesting, scary, but fun at the same time to watch them use local construction methods as they built things like scaffolding and built their own ladders out of 2x4s and pieces of what they call bushwood or bush poles that they got sourced locally out of some of the local woods and forests. To build a house out on this island, we had to drive pilings down, and all of these pilings had to be driven down to bedrock. And so we ordered 1 foot by 1 foot concrete piles. They were about 20 feet long. We had a big crane come in and drive all of these down to bedrock. And once the piles go in, then we start to build the foundation around that, and then we start to take those same beams up, and those beams go from the piling all the way to the base of the roof line. And so they carry the entire structure and the weight of the structure all the way down to bedrock. So this house is very, very heavy. And so we really needed something that would support the weight of the house. And by driving concrete piles all the way to bedrock, we really got that kind of stability that we needed as we started to build a decent sized house that would weigh a tremendous amount. If I look at some of the most interesting moments of building the house, there's a couple things that stand out. Just driving the piles in the ground was very cool, because as the crane lined up with these piles, and I have to guess these piles weigh probably 1.5 tons, maybe 2 tons a piece, because they're 20 foot long, 12 inch by 12 inch solid concrete. They would line those up, and then the moment they released them, before they even started to hammer them in the ground, they would drop like 10 feet down through this silty sand soil. And then they'd drive it the next few feet. The other thing, of course, was watching 40 men show up to carry buckets of concrete on their head as they did these massive concrete pours. So whether it was the floor, some of the major beam structure, or the roof, we had these workers come out 3 different times to do these concrete pours. So I like to tell my friends, 3 different times during those couple years, I was the largest employer in the island by far. There's really no one on the island that employs more than 5 to 10 employees. Phase 3. As we're wrapping up the construction of the house, our long-term goal was to really start to spend some time developing the rest of the land. We bought 3 half-acre lots, so we have 1.5 acres that the house sits on. Because those 3 lots sit on a canal, we wanted to put a seawall. So to build the seawall, we had to ship down what are called vinyl sheet piling. They're 2 feet wide, they're 20 feet long. We had to ship down roughly 200 sheet piles that all had to be driven down to bedrock, and then they pour the concrete cap on top of those once they are all driven down, cut, leveled, reinforced, and then ready for the sidewalk. We wanted to put something that would form a permanent barrier on the edge of that canal to keep erosion off, to provide a nice finish to that side of the property. As part of the construction process of the seawall, we wanted to put in a boat niche. So we wanted to put in a little harbor where we could park boats and jet skis and have a convenient place to jump on a kayak or a paddle board, and have it really nice, have it finished concrete, nice sidewalk across the top of it. That took about 6 months to complete that process, but made a very, very nice finished product, and really gave us kind of the jumping off point to start on the landscaping of the lot as it really defined the last boundary. Phase 4, the last main structure for the house and property that we wanted was a swimming pool. And being on the island is a little challenging because sea level is only about a foot below this property, and anytime you're that close to the canal, the ocean, it puts the water table really right at about where sea level is. So as we started looking at what kind of design would work, we really had to balance what we wanted with what they can build in Belize. We chose an L-shaped pool, very standard rectangular design. We balanced what we wanted with what was in the scope and capacity of our builders' talents, and then started the construction process on that. Questions that I get all the time is, how did it go? How long did it take? Were you happy with the outcome of it? I'm very, very happy with the way it turned out. It came out exactly like we wanted, but I think the reason it did is because we were there every step of the way. Anytime you're building a project or a house or even a remodel, there's a million questions that come up. You have to be there to answer those. But we also talk every week. He sends me pictures every week as he's working. We talk through logistics, and that's what's made this successful. It's not a quick thing to do. We are 5 years into this process, and we started out with a 5-year plan. So I'm very comfortable with the fact that 5 years in, we're just now finishing up, because it really tied in with what our original timeline was. I get a lot of people that ask me, would you do it again? And my answer is, in a heartbeat. It's been a very positive project. The results are exactly what we wanted. We've had a great time. We've had friends down there. We've had the kids down there. We've shipped jet skis down there. We've played in the water. We've played in the sun. My friends always ask me, what's next? I'm very project oriented. I seem to always have to have a bunch of irons in the fire. So they're always asking, is there more to do in Belize? What are you going to do next? I am going to take a little bit of a break after we get the pool done. Down the road, we did buy 1.5 acres. We did buy 3 separate lots so that we could potentially build another house or 2 on either side of the big house that we built. But we'll have to see. That's a future dream. There's no hurry to get that done. Really, the next step is to just go and enjoy the house, the pool, the seawall. We spent a lot of time, a lot of money to build this, and now it's time to go enjoy and really put to good use the investment that we